If your phone ever rings during a blizzard and a stranger whispers, "Don't let him in," you listen. I didn't understand how serious those words were until the night something started circling our house, copying the voices of the people I loved. This is the story of the first time it found us. The winter this happened, I was 16 and still living in the town I grew up in. Cedar Ridge wasn't really a town so much as a few streets, a gas station, and a church surrounded by fields and woods. We were about an hour from anything that looked like a city. January had just started. Christmas lights were still up on a lot of porches, but most of them were turned off because the power kept flickering from the storms. That week, the local radio wouldn't shut up about the snow. Once in a decade blizzard, whiteout conditions, do not travel unless it's an emergency, that kind of thing. My parents both worked nights at the small hospital 2 towns over, so they left early on the day the storm was supposed to hit. The plan was simple. I'd stay home, watch the house, and keep my little sister, Mia, from freaking out. By 5 in the evening, it was already getting dark. The sky was that weird, heavy gray that feels like it's pressing down on everything. Snow was blowing sideways, and you could barely see the houses across the street. Our road was quiet. No cars, no plows, just the wind. The radio guy mentioned something else right before the power flickered.
Local authorities are also asking residents to keep an eye out for a missing man, last seen walking along Route 19 just outside of town. If you see anyone out on foot in this weather, call.
The power cut for 3 full seconds, came back, and the radio never finished that sentence. Mia was sitting on the couch under a blanket watching some cartoon, and she looked up at me. "Is it gonna go out?" she asked. "It might," I said, "but we've got candles and the generator if it's bad. We'll be fine." I said it like I believed it. Around 6, the snow was coming down so hard, the world outside our window was just white in the yellow glow of the single streetlight at the end of the road. I was standing in the kitchen, filling a pot with water in case the pipes froze, when I noticed a shape under the streetlight. At first I thought it was just the pole itself in some shadow, but then my eyes adjusted. There was a man standing in the circle of the light, tall, wrapped in a long, dark coat. He wasn't moving, just standing there, like he'd been dropped there and forgotten. "Hey Mia," I called. "Come here for a second." She came over, dragging the blanket, and we both stared out the kitchen window. "Who is that?" she whispered. "I don't know," I said. "Probably someone walking home." But I knew that didn't make sense. No one walked out here in that kind of snow, and he wasn't walking. He wasn't shivering or hunching his shoulders against the wind. He was just standing. I grabbed my phone and tried to zoom in through the glass, but by the time the camera focused, the outside light flickered and went dim. For a split second, the man looked wrong, taller than the pole, like the shadow stretched upward. Then the street light snapped back to full brightness and he was just gone. I blinked. The snow beneath the light was untouched. No footprints leading away, no tire tracks, just wind and white. Mia looked up at me. "Where did he go?" "I don't know. Probably just behind the trees." Storm's messing with her eyes. I said that, but my voice didn't sound right. She heard it too. That's when the first scrape hit the side of the house. It was subtle at first, like a branch rubbing against the siding, except we didn't have any trees close enough to touch the house. Then it came again. A long, slow drag from one corner of the house to the other, like someone was walking the perimeter, trailing their fingers along the wall. Mia grabbed my arm. "What was that?" "Probably the wind," I said. The scrape repeated on the back wall, closer this time. I could feel it in the floor. A low vibration like big footsteps under ice. "Go sit in the living room," I told her. "I'm gonna go check the back door." I flipped on the porch light and peered through the small window. Snow was piled up halfway up the door. No one there. I opened it just enough to stick my head out and look around. The porch, the steps, the yard, everything was coated in a fresh, smooth layer of snow. But there were footprints. They started at the edge of the yard, where the snow met the road, and they came straight towards the house. Each print was deep, spaced far apart. Whatever made them was tall. They reached the back steps, turned, and followed the wall around the corner, out of sight. I shut the door fast and locked it. My heart was pounding in my ears. I wanted to tell myself it was some neighbor checking on us or the missing man from the radio, but no one came to the door. No one knocked. They just walked around my house, dragging their hand across the walls in the middle of the blizzard. About an hour later, the storm got worse. The windows rattled, snow started sticking to the glass, the TV died, and the house went dark except for the faint glow from the stove clock. The power snapped back on after a few seconds, but every time it flickered, I felt this huge wave of dread. Like when the lights came back, something would be standing in the room with us. The landline rang. We barely used it anymore. It made both of us jump. I walked over, picked it up slowly and pressed it to my ear. Hello? Nothing, just a faint crackling, like static on an old radio. Hello? I tried again. There was a soft sound then. Breathing, too close to the receiver. Who is this? I asked. There was a pause. Then a man's voice, low and strained like his throat was frozen, whispered,
"Don't let him in.
My skin went cold. What?
He's not what he looks like.
The voice said.
No matter what you hear, no matter what you see, don't open the door."
Who are you? I asked. But the line clicked and the call ended. I checked the caller ID, unknown number. When I tried to redial, it just gave a dead tone. I should have called the police. I should have called my parents, but my brain was stuck on that one sentence playing over and over.
"Don't let him in."
Around 9, Mia fell asleep on the couch with the TV static flickering in front of her. I didn't want to move her, so I just tucked the blanket tighter around her and sat in the armchair facing the front door. The scraping came again. This time it started above us, on the roof. Heavy, deliberate steps, one after another, crunching through the snow. Whatever it was walking slowly from one end of the house to the other. Every time the steps passed over, a soft, dusting of snow fell down past the windows. I turned off the TV to listen. The steps moved from the living room area over the kitchen, then finally above my bedroom, then silence. Something tapped on the window down the hall. Not polite, not gentle. 3 sharp knocks. Then after a second, 3 more. I grabbed the fireplace poker from next to the wood stove and crept down the hallway. The house felt wrong. The air was heavy and still, like the storm had sucked all the sound away. The only noise was the wind outside and my own breathing. My bedroom door was half open. The only light was from my digital alarm clock, glowing red. I could see the window over my bed. There was a hand pressed against it from outside. The glass frosted around them from the cold. The hand was pale, almost gray, and the fingers were too long. They left streaks in the thin layer of ice as they slowly dragged down the glass. I didn't move. I couldn't. The fingers disappeared, then there was a soft, testing tap like knuckles on the glass. Then another and another. Something was on the roof, leaning over, knocking on my window in the middle of a blizzard. I backed away, never taking my eyes off that window until I hit the hallway wall. Then I turned and ran. I'd barely made it back to the living room when someone slammed their fist against the front door. It wasn't a knock, it was desperate, panicked pounding. The kind that says, "Open up right now or something terrible will happen." Mia jerked awake with a small scream. "What's happening?" "Stay here," I said, even though I knew she wouldn't. I walked to the door. The pounding kept going, rattling the frame. Whoever was out there was strong. I looked through the people. A man was on our front step, bent over slightly, his shoulders shaking. He looked like he'd been out in the snow for hours. His coat was frozen stiff, rimmed in frost. His face was pale and raw red from the cold. His lips moved, but I couldn't hear him through the door. Then he lifted his head and stared right into the people. His eyes were wide, bloodshot and terrified. "Please," he gasped. I could barely hear him through the wood. "Please let me in, he's behind me." I glanced past him. There was nothing there, just the empty yard and the swirling snow. "Who?" I called through the door. My voice shook. "Who's behind you?" He flinched at my voice like he didn't expect me to answer. His eyes darted to the side towards the window like he was afraid to turn around. "He's on your roof," the man said. "He likes to knock first." As he spoke, something heavy shifted above us. The ceiling creaked. Snow slid past the living room window in a thick sheet. Behind me, the back door jiggled. Mia screamed, and I spun around. The back door, the one that led from the kitchen to the porch, was rattling like someone was yanking on it from outside. Then a voice called through it.
"Hey, it's Mom. Open the door, honey. The key's frozen."
I froze. The voice was my mother's. Same tone, same slight breathless laugh. It sounded like she was smiling. But she was an hour away at the hospital. We had just texted 20 minutes earlier. At the front, the man pounded harder. "Don't let him use their voices," he shouted hoarsely. "He can't come in unless..." His words cut off with a choking sound. I pressed my eye to the peephole again. He wasn't looking at me anymore. He was staring up, slowly, like something was rising behind him. For a second, all I could see was snow and a dark sky, then a shape leaned down over the edge of the roof. It wasn't bright. It was tall in a way that didn't make sense, like it was made out of the space between things. 2 black hollows where his eyes should have been, too far apart. No mouth, but the air around it seemed to bend inward, like everything was being pulled towards that spot. The man on the porch tried to step forward toward the door, but his body jerked back like something had hooked him by the shoulders. His breath fogged the air in frantic bursts. His lips formed words I couldn't hear. One long, thin arm reached down from the roof. Fingers unfolded, joint by joint, and rested lightly on the top of his head. The back door handle stopped rattling. "Please open the door," my mother's voice said, perfectly calm. "It's so cold out here." Then my own voice joined hers from the same spot. "Let us in. It's just us. Open the door, please." My hand was on the deadbolt. I hadn't even realized I grabbed it. My fingers started to turn it on their own. I felt pulled, like every instinct in my body wanted the door to open, wanted whatever was out there inside where it was warm. Behind me, Mia grabbed my arm. "Don't," she whispered. "That's not Mom." The landline rang again. That snapped me out of it. I jerked my hand away from the lock and stumbled back. The knocking at the back door turned angry, sharp. The voices overlapped, glitching, repeating the same words at the same time.
"Open the door, open the door."
The phone kept ringing, shrill and old-fashioned. I grabbed it with shaking hands and pressed it to my ear. "Hello?" The same strained voice as before spoke, barely more than a breath.
"Don't let him in."
"Who are you?" I asked. "Where are you?" There was a wet, coughing sound like he swallowed ice.
"I tried to keep walking.
He said.
Didn't make it. Don't make my mistake. He can't cross the threshold unless you invite him, unless you open something."
I looked at the front door, at the chain lock, at the back door, still shaking in its frame. On the porch through the peephole, I watched the creature's fingers slowly tighten around the man's skull. His eyes rolled back, his mouth opened in a silent scream as the snow around his feet began to darken, almost like shadow was bleeding out of him. We dragged the couch and the armchair into the hallway, away from the doors and windows, and sat huddled together with every light on. The thing on the roof paced back and forth for hours. Sometimes it would stop above a window and tap, tap, tap on the glass. Sometimes it would try the doors again, whispering in voices that weren't its own. At one point, I heard my own voice humming a song I used to sing to Mia when she was little. We didn't speak, we just waited. At some point, the sound stopped. No more footsteps, no more tapping, just wind. The next thing I remember is weak, gray light coming through the hallway ceiling vent. We waited another 30 minutes just in case, then finally moved the furniture and cracked the front door. The porch was empty. No sign of the man, no frozen body, no coat, no hat, nothing. Just a melted, man-shaped depression in the snow on the top step, like something had lain there all night and vanished. Around it, the snow was disturbed in long, deep ruts, like something with too many limbs had dragged itself up the house and away. Above the doorframe, the wood was gouged in 4 long lines straight up to the roof. The police came later and took a quick report. They said the gouges were probably from an ice dam breaking and sliding off. They said the footprints were from an animal. When I told them about the man under the streetlight and the phone calls, they just nodded and wrote things down without looking at me. No missing person matched anyone we had seen. My parents didn't really believe this story either. They blamed stress and the storm and too many horror movies. Mia still sleeps with her bedroom window covered and the door locked. That was 3 years ago. Every winter since then, when the first real blizzard hits and the power starts to flicker, our landline rings sometime after midnight. The number is always blocked. The line is always full of static. And the same hoarse voice always says the same 6 words.
"Don't let him in this time."